Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Bhashatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Radha Gopinath Shri Radhe Madhava Shri Radhe Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Shubhari Jaya Sarshana Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Gurudev Jaya Gurudev Jai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivaracharya Ashtotra Sahasrimat His Divine Grace Abhay Charana Ravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Guru Vrinda Ki Jai Grindaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Ki Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maiya Sudarshan Chakra Ki Jai Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloker Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkrapa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramanandamadavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you for joining. So we are continuing our journey in Srimad Bhagavatam. We are in the second canto. We are in chapter number 5, entitled "The Cause of All Causes." And we have finished until text number 10. So we're going to start from text 11. Yep. So originally in the previous chapters, there were certain questions about creation asked by Parikshit Maharaj, and Sukadeva Goswami is quoting the discussion between Narada Muni and Brahmaji, his father. So Narada Muni is asking certain questions. Are you the primary creator? I see that you are independent. He praises Narada Muni, Brahmaji, and also he tells that I think you are the supreme independent Lord. But then I have a doubt also, because I can see that you are performing tapasya. If whom are you doing tapasya again? On. And so is there somebody more powerful than you? So who is supporting you? Who is the basis of you? So all these questions have been asked by Narada Muni. And now Brahma started answering. We saw in text, how he praised Narada for asking this question. And he also said that whatever you told about me is not false, because whatever you are talking based on your observing thing. But then that's starting from text 11, he is going to talk about how that he is a subordinate and he is not the original creator. So we'll go from text 11. येन स्वरोचि स विश्वं रोचितं रोचयामि अहं यतार्को अग्निर्यथा सोमो यथार्क्षाग्रहतारकाः. Translation: I create after the Lord's creation by his personal effulgence, known as the Brahma Jyoti. Just as when the sun manifests its fire, the moon, the firmament, the influential planets, and the twinkling star also manifest their brightness. So Brahmaji said to Narada that his impression that Brahma, Prabhupada writes that Brahma is the supreme, is not the supreme person in the creation is correct. He's saying that I am not the cause of all causes, and he wanted to be very clear as to who is the authority here, right? Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he compares the text 11, he compares Brahma's role into the creation to that of a gardener. Prabhupada writes that one should not expect the Lord to create like a blacksmith taking a hammer and do all those things. The Lord creates everything through his potencies, right? And through his multivarious potencies. Prabhupada quotes the Parashya Shaktir Vividya Sruyate. So, and he gives the example of a banyan tree, right? We see a banyan tree. I don't know how many of you have seen banyan tree, but in India it is very auspicious and you can see it. Prabhupada also talks about this 500-year-old banyan tree in Calcutta. And there are many trees which are hundreds and thousands of years old. And banyan tree, Krishna says, of all the trees, I'm banyan tree. It's generally huge. It can actually grow to almost to many kilometers also. That's how big it can grow through it. But then all of that potency is contained within the single seed. Similarly, Prabhupada says that Krishna, he gives the seed with all the potencies included in it, and then the seeds are developed by the watering process by Brahma. So the gardener is not the creator of the seed. He just takes the seed, put it in the ground, and waters it, and it grows. Similarly, all the ingredients and the potencies and everything that is needed is given by Lord Brahma, by the Lord to Brahmadeva. And Brahmadeva, he just uses it like a gardener to grow everything. So Prabhupada explains, and that's what here he is also explaining, that he is saying, Lord Brahma is saying that I am, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He creates through his Brahma Jyoti, and from his power, everything is manifested: sun, moon, and firmament, and influential planets. So he gives the analogy of the sun. The sun's fire is reflected by everything. The moon doesn't have its own life, but it reflects. In Vedic literature, we see even the planets. You see Mars, it's a very considered a fiery planet. Again, Mars cannot glow on its own. It is just reflecting the sun's energy. Similarly, all the other planets in Vedic literature, even the stars, they reflect the power of sun. So all this is done by the energy of the sun. So basically, Brahma is comparing himself to the moon and the other elements, which just take the energy and they are just reflecting. So that is what he is explaining. So he makes the first point very clear, that he is not the supreme. As we talked last week, it's very important to have the right conception. So as a spiritual master, that is the first duty. Being the spiritual master of Narada Muni, he is first making that point very clear. Text 12. Tasmai namo bhagavate vasudevaya dhimahi yanmayaya durajyaya mam vadanti jagadgurum. Translation. I offer my obeisances and meditate upon Lord Krishna, Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead, whose invincible potency influences them, the less intelligent class of men, to call me the supreme controller. So basically, then the question may rise, right? If that is the case, what is limiting our vision? If Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, what is limiting our vision to the superficial? What influences one person to mistakenly see another person other than the Lord as a creator? And in answer to these questions, Brahma offers prayers to the Lord, saying that actually Krishna, through his potency, it is actually one of the potencies of Krishna which is actually stopping us from seeing Krishna, right? Then the question may ask, why is Krishna putting this Maya on me? Why is he using this energy on me? Why can't he allow me to see him as he is? And that is answered in the next question. And also, in text 2, Narada had asked about the symptoms that characterize the world. What is the characteristics of the world, right? That is one of the questions. Yad Rupam, right? What is the Rupam? What is the nature of the universe? And also, both those questions are answered in text number 13. Text number 13 is very important. So we'll see. Vilajjamanya yasya statum ikshapatamuya vimohita vikathante mamaham iti duruddiyaha. Translation. The illusory energy of the Lord cannot take precedence, being ashamed of her position, but those who are bewildered by her always talk nonsense, being absorbed in the thoughts of it is I and it is mine. So this is the world's primary characteristics, right? The conditioned souls means people who are covered by this material energy. They talk like fools and nonsense. They always talk nonsense. These are the characteristics of Maya's influence. Maya's illusory energy. If somebody is under the illusory energy, they are very clearly always think and speak about I and mine, who they are and what is theirs. This is always in the mind, running in the background. right? Uh, if we actually deeply analyze, we can understand clearly nothing in the realm of matter belongs to us, even the body, right? When we came to the world, we do not have the whole body. It actually, we just came into a mother's womb, and slowly the body developed over us. And when the death takes the body, we have to give up the body. So even body is not ours. So we cannot take anything with us when we leave this body. So nothing in here is permanently ours, right? But however, Maya's influence is so powerful that one tends to identify the objects with which we come in contact with as ours, right? So this is the problem. This is my shirt, this is my house, this is my children, this is my property. And the power of illusion is such that that living entity increases. The desire to enjoy these things keeps increasing. So it's a negative cycle. There is an illusion, it causes us to think something is mine, that increases the illusion, and that increases the attachment. So it's like a negative cycle that feeds one another. So even though the Atma is spiritual by nature, we are covered by the material energy. And why it is covered by the material energy? The reason is that is there is no Krishna there, right? Because as it is he is also very clearly saying Maya cannot take precedence over this Atma as long as the Atma is in contact with Krishna, right? um, Maya can never act its influence on the Lord. It can only act on the Jiva. So illusion flees from the Lord out of shame. That's what it says here. Because Maya cannot stand where Krishna is there. Uh, Maya always keeps herself at a distance from Krishna, right? So thus to prevent ourselves from falling from illusion, one should always remain under the soothing care of Krishna and his mercy. So this is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I saw this very important purport in Madhya Leela, which is actually Srila Prabhupada quotes in many, many places. So I would just like to talk on this or present this, which is very important for us to understand. Krishna Dasa Kaviraj, in his Chaitanya Charitamrita, he says that Krishna is compared to sunshine and Maya is compared to darkness. Where there is sunshine, there cannot be darkness. So as soon as one takes to Krishna consciousness, the darkness of illusion, the influence of external energy will immediately vanish. The external illusory energy of Krishna, known as Maya, is always ashamed to stand in front of Krishna, just as darkness is ashamed to remain before the sunshine. However, that Maya bewilders unfortunate people who have no intelligence. Thus, they simply boast that this material world is theirs and that they are the enjoyers. One is immediately free from the clutches of Maya if he seriously and sincerely says, "My dear Lord Krishna, although I have forgotten you for so many long years in the material world, today I am surrendering into you. I am your sincere and serious servant. Please engage me in your service." So this is very, very important, this mood. If we want to escape from the clutches of Maya, then we need to very sincerely pray to Krishna that I want to become your servant, I want to surrender into you, please take me under your shelter. Because the moment Krishna takes us under his shelter, immediately the Maya moves away. Actually, Lord Rama, again in this same Madhya Leela, Krishna Das Kaviraj quotes Ramayan, where Lord Rama says, "It is my vow that if one sincerely surrenders unto him and says, 'My dear Lord, from this day I am yours,' and prays for courage, he will immediately award courage to that person, and he will always remain safe from that point on." So these are all, it is so easy to overcome Maya. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also, generally it is very difficult to overcome this Maya because it's like an ocean, but for a devotee, it is very easy to overcome. It's like a calf's hoof print, water in a calf's hoof print. It's like jumping over a small impression made by the foot of a calf that's as small as a child's feet, and then so it is very easy to cross over. So this is very important to understand. So what knowledge frees one from the illusory perception of I and mine? Lord Brahma continues that in verse number 14. Dravyam karma kalascha swabhavo jiva eva cha vasudevat paro brahmanna chanyo artasi tatvataha. Translation: the five elementary ingredients of creation, the interaction thereof set up by the eternal time, and intuition of or nature of the living and individual living beings are all differentiated parts and parcel of the personality of Godhead Vasudeva, and in truth there is no other value in them. So Lord Brahma is saying all the five elements, earth, water, fire, ether, and not only these elements, but the interaction of these elements, right? Because we see our body, it is a combination or interaction of these five elements in a certain way. You see a flower, you see ocean, water, you see everything. It's a combination of these elements and their interactions. So the basic elements, their interactions, and what is causing the interactions to happen? It is the time factor. Time is the most important factor in the material world. Kala Chakra, right? Sometimes in Bhagavatam, the Sudarshan Chakra of Krishna is compared to the Kala Chakra of this material world, and it keeps moving forward, right? Time is an indomitable thing, as well as the living entities, nature, right? The intuition or the nature of the living being, this idea of I and mine, right? Also, these are all, even the Maya. So basically Maya, the five elements, the interactions of all these, and the time factor, everything are all parts and parcel of Lord Narayana, right? And if we see them, if the moment we try to see them separate from Krishna, they have no value. Like the body has no value as soon as the soul leaves the body. There was a research or a calculation done by one of our devotees. I think those days when I joined Krishna consciousness, they used to print a pamphlet saying, "What is your value?" So in that article, they've done a research and they've said that after a person dies, if they take all the parts of the body, all the chemicals in the body, and they combine it together, what is the value of all the chemicals is like 250 rupees or something, Indian rupees. So that's like $5 or $10 is. So basically, without the Atma, the body has no value, and without Krishna, this whole material creation has no value. He is the Atma of this material world. So Sridhar Swami is actually also here is answering one of Narada's question by explaining that it is the Lord who is above him as the supreme creator, right? So this is very important to understand. So everything we see, if we do not relate it to Krishna, again as a devotee, it is also equally important that the practical application or abhideya of this verse is, as a devotee, we should always try to connect something to Krishna. And it's not everything can be connected to Krishna, but our capacity, based on our capacity, we can relate certain things to Krishna, we cannot relate certain things to Krishna. So then it is better to ignore those things that we cannot relate to Krishna. It's not the problem of the material thing. Anything can be related to Krishna. But whatever is in our capacity, if we can't relate something to Krishna, we should be ready to give it up. So now he is further in the next text number 15 and 16. He is now explaining the answer, who is supreme, right? Who is the shelter, or who is the creator, who is the original creator of everything? That was Brahma's question. So that is answered in text 15 and 16, that Narayana is the shelter, and Narayana is on whom everything depends on. So those are the two answers that he is going to give in text 15 and 16. Text 15. Narayana para Veda Deva Narayana Angajaha Narayana Paraloka Narayana para Makaha. Translation: the words are meant for supreme. Parts are also meant for serving the Lord as his parts of his body. The different planets are also meant for the sake of the Lord, and different sacrifices are performed to just please him. So this verse and verse number 16 it is very important for us to understand um, that Krishna is the basis of everything. All right. So the Vedic literature is basically in Ramayana. It is explained that in the purports to Ramayana, Acharyas explain that Krishna this material he created because the jivas they want to enjoy without Krishna. So because they wanted to enjoy without Krishna, but Krishna being the merciful father he is supremely independent. So he is supremely independent. Still, he wants to keep all the jivas happy. So when not be engaged in the service, not to be in their original position in our constitutional position, Krishna said, "Okay, you want to enjoy yourself? That's fine." Then he created this material world where we can come and enjoy this material world. But then he created this material world. But then when we come here, we understand that when we try to enjoy on our own, we always end up being in a very negative situation. So we may think, oh, Krishna has created this material world and he has put us here. It's a prison house. Why did Krishna put us in a prison house? As I said, we have created the prison for ourselves. We requested something and Krishna is granting that will. But Krishna is so merciful to us, as Ramayana explains, that Krishna actually, he saw that he created this material world which is a place for us to try to enjoy and realize that we cannot enjoy on our own without Krishna. That is not our constitutional position. We need to go back and serve Krishna and be engaged. Through him we enjoy. So he created this material world, but then he also not only created the material world, he created the body also for us. He gave us a body in which we can either try to realize that we have to serve Krishna. But then he saw that we are misusing this material world and the material body. So then Krishna, out of mercy, he gave the Vedic literature. So the whole purpose of the Vedic literature is to know and understand Krishna and go back to him. Prabhupada also writes in the purport that Veda means knowledge that leads to Krishna. Vedas are given to us so that we revive our forgotten consciousness, right? So that is the basis. And Prabhupada says any book or knowledge of book that if it is a real knowledge, real knowledge means it should lead to the knowledge of Narayana. Otherwise, it should be rejected because it's not really knowledge. So that is the way of advancement of knowledge. So this is very important. So the whole, as I said, Krishna gave the Vedic literature so that we can read it and understand. But then he saw that we are even, people are taking the Vedic literature and they are using it for their own purpose. The Vedic literature talks about Karma Yoga. There are two paths explained in the Vedic literature. One is a gradual path and the other one is the straightforward path to Krishna. Right? So in the gradual path, sometimes people get stuck. Right. So then in this verse, the Sukadeva Goswami is explaining, yes, Vedas, they talk about demigod worship and everything, but you may also have to understand that demigods are also servants of Krishna. And Krishna, Prabhupada quotes the verse from Bhagavad Gita, Avidi Purvakam, that if we worship demigod without understanding their relationship to Krishna, then it is basically unauthorized. And Krishna also, as I said, originally Krishna created this material world as well for us to realize him. So they are also part of Krishna. So there are two paths that are given. Either we can go step by step. That's what we saw in the second and the third chapter of this Bhagavatam second canto. That, somebody goes from the material world, he goes to the planet of fire. From that he goes to Maharaloka. From there he goes to Brahmaloka. And then he goes through all the five elements and he finally approaches Krishna. So that is one path. So this whole purpose of the material world and different lokas, the demigods, everything is there, and the sacrifices that are mentioned in the Vedas, everything is there so that we can realize Krishna. So he is emphasizing the point that whatever that is there, they also everything has to have some relationship to Krishna. Otherwise, they have no value. Text 16. Narayana paro yogo, Narayana param tapaha, Narayana param jnanam, Narayana para gatihi. So then people may ask the question, translation, we'll read the translation. All different types of meditation or mysticism are means for realizing Narayana. All austerities are aimed at achieving Narayana. Culture of transcendental knowledge is for getting a glimpse of Narayana, and ultimately salvation is entering the kingdom of Narayana. So basically, people may ask, there are Vedic literature, there is sacrifices that are recommended, there is tapasya, many yajnas are recommended, tapasya is recommended, there are yoga sutras, there are different paths that are given in. And then here, Sukadeva Goswami, through the words of Brahmaji, he is confirming that all of this is only for Narayana. Everything has to have a link to Narayana, otherwise it has no value. Like Prabhupada talks about the modern yoga, people just go do exercise and they call it yoga. That is not yoga, because Narayana Paro Yoga, all different types of meditation or mysticisms are for realizing Narayana. If there is no link to Narayana, it is not yoga. As we know, yoga itself means to yuj, to link, and if there is no link between the internal and external consciousness, between the marginal potency and the supreme potency of Lord, if that link is not created, then it is not yoga at all. And that is what here Sukadeva Goswami is explaining. Narayana para yoga, Narayana param tapaha. Whatever austerities that we do, it has to be done for Krishna. And whatever knowledge we acquire, right, it has to be to understand Krishna. Otherwise it is sambandha jnana, it becomes jnana yoga, and it has no value, right? Any kind of knowledge that doesn't link us to Krishna. So the sambandha that we talk about, the element of sambandha in bhakti, is not jnana yoga as such. It is more about understanding Krishna and our relationship to Krishna and our relationship to his various potencies. So the purpose of knowledge, everything is finally to achieve Krishna, should be the final goal of everything. Narayana Paragatihi, he is the topmost final gati. So in these two verses 15 and 16, there are two questions that are answered, which is what is the shelter and what is everything depends on. Right? Everything depends on Krishna, and Krishna is the shelter of everything, and finally he is the final goal also. So the sambandha should lead to prayojana, abhide. So all the processes should be there, whether it is yoga, tapasya, jnana, everything should be linked to Krishna. So all the abhideya should lead to this final goal. This is very important. Text 17. तस्यापि द्रष्टुर्ईशास्य कूटस्थस्याखिलात्मनः सृज्यं सृजामि सृष्टोऽहम् इक्ष्यैवाभिचोदितः. Translation: inspired by him, I discover what is already created by him, Narayana, under his vision as the all-pervading super soul, and I also am created by him only. So Sridhar Swami, he is explaining the question that is asked by Narada Muni, how and why is Brahma creating, is explained in this text, right? Srila Prabhupada's text, purport to the text 17, describes devotees such as Lord Brahma who act under the Lord's inspiration and according to the desire of the Lord. So whatever Brahma is doing because the Lord inspires him to do so, right? The following purport, Prabhupada explains that Lord inspires the individual soul to create what is actually already created by the Lord. So anything that you see that is created, whether it's art, whether it is a huge building, whether it is a new technological advancement, the basis, it has already been created by Krishna, and it is already been conceived by Krishna, and he is inspiring the living entity, and we are only taking the everything from Krishna, and we are only taking credit for it. But a devotee like Lord Brahma, he knows that the originally it is by Krishna's mercy. Prabhupada gives the example of Columbus, right? It's not that he discovered the land, right? The land actually, the land was not actually created by Columbus. The land was there by the potency of Krishna, and Columbus Prabhupada explains, by the dint of the service that he has done to the Supreme in the past, it could be any service, anyway, he was blessed with the credit of discovering America. So similarly, Prabhupada explains that no one can create anything without the sanction of the Lord, right? And the more one surrenders to Krishna, and more one wants to do service to Krishna, Krishna empowers him more and more. So there is this particular verse, there is one chapter in 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam which talks about the glories of Priyavrata Maharaj. He was a great devotee. He didn't want to even rule the world, so he gave it to his brother, and he went and he was constantly engaging in Krishna service by the instruction of his spiritual master Narada Muni. But then his brother's line, in which Dhruva came and everybody came, at some point it stopped. So Lord, his father Manu came and said, your brother's line is no more, so I want you to take over the world and run it. And then, Priyavrata was not happy to do it, but then finally Lord Brahma instructs, and then because he is his Parama Guru, his Guru's Guru, he accepts the instruction and he becomes the king of the whole world. And then that whole chapter describes all the glories of Priyavrata Maharaj, about thinking, the great things that he did, how he divided the world, he created all the boundaries and nations and everything, he leveled everything. He even actually, he was so powerful that he was unhappy with the way sun was traveling, because 6 months there is summer and winter. He wanted people to enjoy nice climate and all the good conditions all the time. So it is said that he took his chariot and he became the second sun, going behind Surya Deva. So there were two suns at the time of Priyavrata Maharaj. And in that, there is a verse that explains this is not very wonderful. Because how can you say it is not wonderful? He was the second son. Who can create a second son? How can it be not wonderful? It is not wonderful because it is, we know it is because he is empowered by Krishna, because he is a devotee of the Lord, and they are empowered to do great things. Similarly, here Brahma created this whole universe. And why? Because he is inspired by the Lord, because he is a pure devotee of the Lord. So we need to understand that from all these verses, it is very important for us to understand that our conception of reality and our pleasures, our accomplishments, they are all gift of Krishna, and they are awarded to us based on our level of purity, right? Prabhupada, in one of the purports, he writes that both the pig and the gourmet, they desire to enjoy themselves by eating, right? But Krishna, as the super soul, reciprocates each of them by awarding them according to their individual piety. Based on their level of piousness, pig enjoys a filthy thing, whereas a gourmet enjoys a top class of food, right? So each of them are awarded a particular type of body and mentalities according to their level of what they have done for Krishna, and right. Therefore, persons will view an item differently and ascribe it differently based on what body and mentality they have. So they will see something as adorable and something as abominable based on what body they have. The pig glorifies the stool, whereas humans, they think it is abominable. So in Vedic writings, Prabhupada, in the purport, he says that in the Vedic writings such as Katha Upanishad, the Lord is described as the Sarva Bhuta Antaratma, right? He is living in everybody's body. He is inside everybody, and he is directing everybody. But particularly, he directs those who are surrendered unto him, right? And those who are not surrendered unto him, they are put under the material nature. Brahmyam sarva bhutani yantradunani mayaya. So therefore, each one are allowed to enjoy and suffer the consequences themselves, because they have not surrendered to Krishna. So whatever they want to do, whether it is good or bad, they need to feel, right? Whereas as we become devotees, we need to give up this that the shelter that we have taken under material things, and we need to gradually move towards taking shelter under Krishna. And if we take shelter to Krishna, then Krishna will empower us to do great things. So it is very important for us to surrender to Krishna, right? So that is basically ultimately very important, right? Now in the next three verses, 18 to 20, he is explaining how Jiva Tattva is covered by the three modes of material nature. Again, Brahma is explaining how Jiva is different from Vishnu Tattva. Sattvam rajas tamas iti nirgunasya gunastrayah sthiti sarga nirodeshu grihita mayaya vibhoho. Translation: the Supreme Lord is pure spiritual form, transcendental to all material qualities. Yet, for the sake of creation of the material world and its maintenance and annihilation, he accepts through his external energy the material modes of nature called goodness, passion, and ignorance. So, Krishna is very merciful, and because he is super merciful, he is also there are three modes of material nature, right? And these three modes are controlling everything, but they are under the control of Krishna. So the first difference between Jiva and Vishnu Tattva is Vishnu controls the three modes, the Jivas are under the control of the three modes, right? So the three modes is the cause of everything that we will see in the next verse, right? Brahma describes the Lord's activity as the prime mover of a creation, right? He describes the difference between us and Krishna. The living entities are controlled. Even though we are controlled, that doesn't mean that we are not responsible for our actions. Ultimately, we are responsible for our actions, right? The controlling is through us, through the three modes of material nature. But even though we are controlled, yet we are responsible for our actions and the results, right? In that sense only we are the doer. Actually, the activity itself is done by the three modes of material nature. The desire, the power to do the activity is given by Krishna. So the only thing is, it is like we are sitting in the tree and we are only eating the fruit. We are only the eater of the fruit. We are not the producer of the fruit. We are not the producer of the tree. We have no capability to do anything. A bird cannot create a fruit. Then if that is the case, then it can self-sustain itself. So we'll see so this is very important, and we are covered by the three modes of material nature. Text 19. Karya karana kartritve dravyanyana kriya shrayaha badnanti nityada muktam mayinam purusham gunaha. Translation: these three modes of material nature, being further manifested as matter, knowledge, and activities, put the eternally transcendental living entity under conditions of cause and effect and make him responsible for such activities. So this is what I explained. So once activated, these modes manifest as matter, which is dravya, and knowledge, jnana, and activities, kriya. So everything that you see in the material world is actually a combination of these three. So the modes, they place the living entity, who is actually transcendental and eternal, under the conditions of cause and effect and make him responsible for this. So as I said, the living entities are controlled, yet each remain responsible for the action and the results due to his sense that he is the doer and that he can enjoy through his actions. So the sense of false ego and doership allows Maya or illusion to bind the soul. So basically, we are the doer and we are enjoying the results, not because we are the doer, but because we think that we are the doer. The moment we realize that we are not the doer, then we will be free from all these things, right? Okay, this is something that is very important, particularly for devotees, as to understand. So every activity that we do, I lift a cup of water and drink it, right? So where is this energy coming from? We need to analyze that. So the energy ultimately comes from Krishna. This body itself is given by Krishna. The three modes of material nature is doing. And where is the desire to drink that cup of water, or a drink a cup of wine, or drink a cup of milk, whatever it is? It comes from the three modes of material nature. Somebody wants to drink milk, which is in mode of goodness. Somebody wants to drink something hot and spicy, mode of passion. And somebody wants to drink intoxication, which is mode of ignorance. So the desire is originated by the three modes, and the power to execute is done by the body. But then, and the results are also enjoyed by the body. But because we have identified ourselves with the body, because we think I am this body, we think it is my desire and I am the doer. And that false ego, that idea of I, wrongly identified with the body, is what is the problem that is allowing Maya to cover us under it. So actually, we have no control over our desires. Nobody can say. I have asked this question in the class previously as well. If I generally ask in a class, how many of you like rasagulla? If there are 40 people, 20 will like and 20 will not like. So we need to ask this question: why do you like what you like? Somebody likes sweet things, somebody likes spicy things, somebody likes this, somebody likes this. Why if different people like different things? It is all because of the three modes. What, as we were seeing, a pig likes a stool, whereas a gourmet eater, he wants the finest of the cheese, crafted in a very particular way, put it in a plate, decorated in a certain way. Michelin 4-star restaurant, 5-star restaurant, the food has to be very tasty, it has to be presented in a certain way, and all those things. Only then he can enjoy the food, whereas the pig, so each one is enjoying certain things, and each one is considering certain things as abominable based on their three combination of three modes. So basically, we cannot say this is my desire. The desires are originated by the three modes, and it is executed by the body, and the results that comes as also enjoyed or suffered by the body. But because we have wrongly identified ourselves to be the doer and the owner, I and mine, that is the root cause of our problem. These are all actually not happening to us or happening because of us. Both are true. It is not happening to me, and it is not happening because of me. This is something that is very important to understand. And that is why the knowledge also comes from three modes of material nature. For example, somebody has a desire. How to fulfill that desire, that intelligence also is originated from the three modes of material nature. That's why here it said the object itself, the knowledge of how to enjoy the object, and the activity, the doing, right, to obtain the object. All three are coming from the three modes of material nature. So to identify ourselves with any of them is foolishness. That is what is causing us to be under the control of Maya. But the problem is, this illusion is so powerful, um, that we are completely unaware that we are controlled. Right? To give an example, a young man, he sees a young woman and he's amazed by her beauty, right? um, um, or you buy a new car, you go and buy a new Ferrari car or a Lamborghini or whatever it is, Porsche, whatever is it, you buy a car. And we start thinking, oh, this is a very wonderful, how wonderful it will be live the drive this beautiful car. But what we do not realize is that is Maya here has colored our vision. When a young man is attracted to a young girl, he's completely enamored by her. The covering is there. What is the covering? That attraction is the covering, right? Um, but then over a period of time, that illusion goes away. And then we get enamored by another illusion, right? You take a car, you drive the car, 1 week you enjoy it, 2 week enjoy it, you enjoy it for a few days. And then after that, it's not that in day one, the happiness you felt, you're not going to feel it. But then you get enamored, we get enamored by something else, and we start running behind this thing. So what causes this illusion is our false sense of considering ourselves to be the doer or the enjoyer. We think we are the enjoyer. And when we give up this desire to enjoy Maya, that's when this illusion will lift from away. Right? So Prabhupada is explaining in the purport that factually the living entities are not meant to be so conditioned by material energy, but due to their being affected by the false sense of lording it over the material energy, they come under the influence of such potency and thus become conditioned by the three modes of material nature. This external energy of the Lord covers up the pure knowledge of the living entity, but the covering is so constant that it appears that the conditioned soul is eternally ignorant. Such is the wonderful action of Maya, or external energy manifested, external external energy manifested as if materially produced. These are the material manifestation of cause and effect and the sense of responsibility of the conditioned actors. They are, after all, manifestation of the conditioned state, and the human beings' freedom from such conditional state is the highest perfectional attainment. So, what we need to understand is also that all the illusions or all the attractions are not same. Some are actually, some of the acharyas explain, some attractions are foundational. For example, the attraction between men and women, right, is one such illusion. So if one were to remove the thin layer of skin and analyze the truth, if we just remove this thin, one would see, what we would see is the bones, which are very unattractive, blood and all those things. But when the same thing is covered or shaped or empowered by Maya, fueled by a spirit of enjoyment, we find ourselves attracted to it. So Prabhupada gives that story of that beautiful young woman who a man was attracted to her all the time. In Science of Relations was there. So then she said, okay, if you are attracted to me, meet me after 3 days. And in 3 days, she took a lot of purgatory and all unwanted things, and she passed a lot of vomiting and, diarrhea and everything. And the last day he saw her bones and she was unattractive. So it's the same thing. It's just that, when it is covered by Maya and by our sense of enjoyment, we are attracted to it. And then we want to embrace such a form. So basically it is Krishna's Maya which is covering, bewildering and limiting the condition living entity. So if we surrender unto Krishna, in the next verse, he will explain that if we surrender unto Krishna, then he can remove this and remove this Maya that is covering us, and rather we can be situated in Yoga Maya, or his personal manifestation, in which we understand Krishna as the ultimate enjoyer and we to be his servant. So this is the second part. The third part is called Karna Shasti, and the last part is called Karya Shasti. So those two parts we will start seeing from next week. So we'll finish the class here. I thank everybody who joined. Hare Krishna. As you know, you can write to me or message me in 0414018739 if you have any questions. So we'll continue from text 20 in next week's class. Thank you. Hare Krishna.